Hey everyone, I'm just here with Ravi, who's going to present his deal, a recent one that he's bought up north in North Queensland. So, Ravi, welcome on. So, just to give you a bit of a background into Ravi, he's got a pretty big portfolio. You've already bought a few properties before, jumped in, did one of my courses. You're a data analyst, so technical nature, probably similar to me in that respect. So, and Ravi's pretty young as well, got a young family. So hat off to you for doing exceptionally well, even before, you jumped into my course. And he's kicking goals, kicking ass, and a real inspiration to a lot of people as well. So I'll hand it over to you, Ravi.
Thanks, Adam. Well, just to start off with me first, I mean, I moved to Australia in 2019, right before COVID. Coming from India, I did spend quite a bit of like a good 8-9 years in the Middle East. So I spent like 8-9 years in Dubai. But I started my property journey in 2022, like I would say late 2022. And I basically, the way I sort of came to that conclusion that I need to start my property journey is I've always been investing my income from work, and did some stock investing, cryptos, and everything. Never made any money, very honestly. probably, probably that's probably the case with, I don't know, most of us,
Yeah.
because people I talk to, they've never made any money, but we still invest. I don't know. That's what we've been taught, to invest money in stocks, cryptos, whatever those investment assets are, and came to the conclusion that it doesn't make sense if I keep investing and I'm not making any money out of it. And when I came to Australia, I was like, everyone's sort of talking about property, real estate. Why don't I just sort of give it a go? And I started sort of looking up content, watching a lot of content day and
Yep.
night, spent a lot of time. And that's where I was like, let's give it a go, and started an Australian property journey in 2022. And I think I invested in my first property, and I was like, I'm investing with my income, whatever cash I had in my account. And when I invested in my first property, you obviously know that you can take money from the bank. You know that, like you can take loan out from the bank. But what you don't realize is, and you kind of know that in your subconscious mind, but you don't realize how powerful that leverage is. And that's where the penny drop moment happened. Like, I was comparing stocks and property, and I was having this chat with my friend. Like, I invest in stock. I probably understand that better. I can make, if I invest 50K, that will probably turn into 100K in probably 8-10 years. And then he suddenly said that, yeah, but if you sort of go and put that as a deposit on your property, you're basically buying an asset which is probably, 500,000. And
Yeah.
then if you double that money, you're probably making 1 million out of your, what, 50,000, 100,000, whatever.
Yeah,
And I'm
absolutely.
like, that's a penny drop moment. I'm like, yeah, you know that already, but you never sort of, executed that thing. And that's when I was like, oh my God, like, it's actually the property game that you should be playing, rather than investing in stocks or cryptos and everything, which you actually don't understand. You are not playing that game, someone else is playing that game for you, and they're controlling. You're just the puppets. They're controlling those assets, whereas in property you are pretty much owning that asset and you're controlling that asset. So I
Yeah,
think I
good
love
point.
that bit, and that's what kind of excited me to get into the property game in 2022. Now I mean, just recently I bought this another property, which is, like you mentioned, in North Queensland. Just some pictures. It's a freestanding house, relatively big block, 800 square meters. Now, I think the way I kind of managed to buy this property, and it was an off market property, so never got listed. Uh, it was really through that agent relationship that I had built in the locally. So I had another property in this suburb already, but that was being managed by another property manager. I was sort of considering already to move on from that property management, because that property management agency was like, it's a big shot in the region, and
Yep.
I just felt that they're probably not taking care of my property enough. And I was already considering to move that property to some other agency. And in that process, I came across this particular agent whose primary core business is into property management. It's a boutique agency. Um, so like I said, it's the core business is into property management, but she obviously had like, and she's been in the business for a very long time. So she obviously had those, those clients who's kind of,
So
stuck to her
this was
for,
an existing property that the manager, your new manager, was managing,
yes,
and the owners wanted to
yes,
sell it. Is that right?
yes,
Okay.
100%, 100%.
And what? How did the conversation go? You were talking to her about moving your property over so she could manage it, and then did
Yeah.
you ask, "Hey, I'm also looking to buy another property," and it was just fate that she's like, "Oh, cool, my owners want to sell this brick house. We manage it already. Do you want to buy it?" Is that how the conversation went? Something like that?
Well, actually, yes. So I kind of approached her
Yeah.
for property management, and she was like, there are owners coming reaching out to me, and they want to sort of sell through me
Yeah.
because I'll be managing their properties. And I'm like, yeah, feel free to sort of flick it over. I'm happy to consider them, and obviously I'm in the process of buying another one. So if you share something with me, I'll probably buy it. And there were a couple of them before she shared this one. Before this one, there were a couple that she shared, and obviously for whatever reason I did not you know like those properties.
Yeah.
And when this one came in, I was really happy, and I instantly jumped onto it.
Yeah. So
uh,
you don't, just so everyone knows as well, Ravi doesn't live in Cairns, so it was a
yeah.
remote property. So the property manager as well, we know what. Well, if you don't, regional managers or sales agents, when they get an interstate buyer, they just go ching, interstate buyer, because most of the
Yeah.
time interstate buyers overpay for things.
Yeah.
But when you hear the rest of the deal, Ravi's got a good deal on this one. So
Yeah.
just so you guys, if you are looking at buying interstate, you really can leverage that positioning. If you are interstate, you can kind of leverage it to make the agent think you're going to overpay, and just make sure you don't overpay for something, because plenty of other interstate buyers do. And like, as a local, having been an ex-local in a regional area, I've seen what interstate buyers pay, and like all the locals are like, oh, these guys are idiots paying this sort of money. But if you get the market cycle timing right as well, you can pay over. So anyway, I'll give it back to you. Give us a bit of a
Yeah.
rundown. What is it? How many bedroom, bathroom?
Yeah.
All that
So
stuff.
this one's a 3x2, and
Yeah.
interestingly, an interstate buyer's agent was also out of this property.
Oh, there you go.
So they they probably they had a similar offer to me, but
Yeah.
because I had already sort of established that relationship with the agent,
Okay. Awesome.
it's not like she was promoting me or something. In like she obviously had to put down all the offers
Yeah.
to the landlord, to the sellers,
Well,
and
she's
she did.
dealing with you direct as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So buyers agents, depending on how well the agent knows them, they're not the one signing the contract. So
Yeah.
as a buyer dealing direct, I actually think it's more powerful, because
Yeah.
you're the buyer and you're like, I'm going to sign this, send me over the contract, and I'll sign it back like straight away. Like, a buyer's agent can't do that.
Yeah.
So advantage
So
over a
I
buyer's
think which
agent.
is what happened in this deal as well. I mean, I was because I had sort of done the whole analysis. Like I knew like what I'm going into, and the kind of house I needed, the land size and the value of it, everything.
Yeah.
And when the deal came in, it was probably a couple of hours, and I said, yeah, I'm going to go with it, and I probably just signed the contract immediately. And like I said, buyer's agent does not have that leeway
Yeah.
of doing that
Yeah.
in like a couple of hours. Uh,
Yeah. So when you
and,
say immediately, and you just kind of alluded to it, so from when she told you about the property to when you signed it, what was that time frame?
it was probably 3 or 4 hours, not max. So probably two. I can't
Oh,
remember
wow.
exactly, but it was not like days. It was a couple of
It
hours.
was it was in the same day. So
Yeah.
you saw the deal, you knew it was a good deal, you jumped on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, well
And
done.
I also requested the agent to sort of present my offer immediately to the owners, because I knew this is going to sell like a hotcake. and I didn't want to sort of,
You didn't
for
want to
the
miss
agent to
out on
kind
the
of
good
do.
deal.
Yeah, yeah. And she did, and then the offer got accepted immediately. And then I remember the agent telling me that the buyer's agent was actually willing to put more, like, raise offer. And I was like, that's why I knew that's probably going to happen, and that's why I just sort of got the offer accepted as early as possible, because I kind of acted on it quite quickly as well,
Well
because I
done.
realized it's a hot market.
What's the saying? The early bird gets the worm.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good on you. And I know lots of other people that have missed out on deals because of timing, and I can vouch for that as well. I've missed out on stuff because I've just been too slow. I've looked at it, looks like a good deal, and you think you got that other thought, oh, is this a good deal? What's wrong with it? Why are they selling it so cheap? So it's all those like inner thoughts that you have, and you can have those inner thoughts, but do it after you put it under contract. And
Yeah.
and was this subject to building and pest, I'm assuming, and finance?
Yes, it was subject to building and pairs, finance, all those regular
Yeah.
clauses that applies in Queensland. So
Yeah. So you
everything
had a get
happened.
out clause.
Yeah, 100%. And I was, because I had that relationship with the agent, I already knew there's nothing wrong with the property itself, because she was managing this
Yeah.
property as
Well
well
done.
for a very long time. But I had to get those conditions. Like, you have to rely on the third party sort of team who can sort of give you an impartial picture of, okay,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with the property. So got that done, absolutely. Nothing came out, just small
All
minor
right.
things, you can live with them.
I'm going to ask you about the numbers, but I know that that's coming. So for everyone watching and listening, you'll have to wait for the numbers. So just jump to the next one and tell us about your other property deals that you've done before this one, because this isn't your first rodeo as well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you only started in late 22. So you've only been in the property game for 2 years, and you've
Yeah.
amassed, is it 4 plus this one, or 4 including
Yeah.
this?
It's four including.
Okay, 4 including. I mean, that's exceptional.
Yeah.
4 properties in 2 years. And
Yeah.
you're going to smash that out of the park in the next couple of years.
Hopefully. uh, Now, obviously, so I bought, a couple of three other properties before this. All comes with like big block sizes. So, like I said, the first two were in Perth. Well, the first one is in Perth. The second one is in a sort of not so regional, but regional in Perth.
Yep. Yep.
And the third one is in the same suburb. So they're all sort of good block sizes,
Yep. Awesome.
brick houses. Yeah, good deals, I would say, and they've all sort of done well in the last couple of years. And generally, Perth market has done well. So I think, yeah, it's kind of done well. And I think the third one is also in the same suburb, and the third one is, especially the third one that you see on your right, is a very like a new house. It's probably 2015
Okay.
house.
So the one on
And
the right is in Cairns, and then
it's in Cairns. Yeah,
the two on the left are both Perth.
Perth. Yeah,
Just to
yeah.
clarify. Yeah.
Yeah, and this third one on the right is like I said, it's a 2015 house, and I got a great deal on this one, and I wish I so this just a story on this one. So the seller had another house that is sitting, like, he owned two houses and he was selling both the houses at the time.
Yeah.
And I wish I had bought both, but I bought this one because he was selling it for really peanuts. And
So
I think this
what's
was a
peanuts, to give us an idea? Was 400 grand?
well, I shouldn't. Yeah, so it's well, not peanuts. It's actually I did a probably I saved like a good, I would say 30-40 grands.
Okay. So
So
it's probably what, 500,000, 400 or 500, just to give us a ballpark
yeah,
on.
yeah, around that mark.
Yeah, and
But
it looks a bit bigger than the last one. So I'm guessing 4-bed, 2-bath.
it is definitely bigger than the last one. It's a 4-bed 2-bath house and double garage.
And your
Everything done to
style
the
is
property.
similar as well. So you've kind of picked your style and ran with it, and they're low set brick or block.
Yeah.
Look like they're all pretty low maintenance.
Yeah.
They're obviously high rental yields, but we won't go into too much detail on your previous deals. But you've obviously done well out of those, and now you're in a position where you can continue to buy. I'm going to talk
Yeah.
about the structuring later, but I'll let you keep talking about the real deals, and then at
Yeah.
the end we'll talk about the deal structure and
Yeah.
what your plans are moving forward for those people that are in similar position.
Yeah. Some more pictures from the recent deal.
Yeah.
This is where I think, just to highlight where this property is, it's probably 20 minutes drive from the job, like from the Cairns Center. It's really close to good schools in the area. I think the other thing probably I want to highlight is this property kind of sits uh, in a suburb, which is actually closer to a high-end suburb. So
Yep.
it's really on the borders of it. So I thought that's another sort of a good like
Absolutely.
deal to sort of go for this property. It's really close to good schools in the area. So high school,
Yep.
primary schools, like good schools around, probably in a distance of what, 300, 400 meters.
Yeah. So for
Um,
those people that are listening that don't know, when you have a property next to a neighboring suburb that's more expensive, there's this terminology called the ripple effect. And Ravi, you've probably heard of it as well. Um, so you get a ripple from the more expensive homes. So when a valuer, or the principles behind valuations, is that a valuer comes through your house and he compares it to the surrounding homes. So if you're in a neighboring suburb that's cheaper than, the more premium one, as the premium suburb gets more expensive, or as people are priced out, they move to the cheaper suburb next door because it's got the same amenity. And what actually ends up happening is the cheaper suburb, in some instances, and this has happened in Perth as well, massively, all the cheap, crappy suburbs have all gotten as expensive as the more premium ones. So now what's happening in Perth is the premium ones are now booming because people have realized they were previously buying in the cheap ones because they were cheaper, but now they've boomed, and now it's time for the more premium suburbs to boom. So um, you like hit the nail on the head. If you can get a property like just over the suburb borderline and it's cheaper and it's got the same amenity or very similar amenity, then you'll find that it will go through a boom phase, and actually the premium suburb may end up, a lot of the time, ends up doing less growth, which is a funny position. But that's what's happened to Perth. Anyway, I'll hand it back to you, Ravi.
Now, just the deal itself, I think the suburb itself is in Cairns, like I said, bought for 520, which is, I think, at the time I got a bank valuation done. It was probably 30, 40K under
Oh,
market
nice.
already.
Awesome.
Like I said earlier, it's an offline deal, and all thanks to the relationship that I had with the agent that was built before the deal, like started
And
having
and
that
what
relationship
was it
3 or 4
renting
years.
out for when you bought it?
So this one's renting out for, at the time it was renting out 500 a
Yep.
week, but it was really low, and the owners had rented out because they probably didn't care much, and so but I think the rent has already increased. We've already sort of signed a contract for a rent increase in the next year to 600.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's exceptional.
Yeah. Uh,
But just on that, did you
yeah.
know that it was being under rented when you bought it?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
So
The agent
somebody
did
else looking
mention.
at this, so somebody else looking at this goes, oh, 5% return, rule of thumb. 5% return. Yeah, okay, I'll run my numbers based on 5%. But you were running your numbers based on $600 a week, not
Yeah.
500.
Yeah.
So
I
market,
was running it on the
market.
future potential rather
Yeah.
than the existing market.
Yeah, absolutely. So you knew probably more about the suburb than the other buyer as well, I'm sure, or the other buyers,
Yeah.
because you already had a
Yeah.
property there, which helps.
Yeah.
And I think you've stuck to your strategy in Perth. You saw that the market was undervalued. You bought a couple in the same suburb, which a lot of people don't want to do. But
Yeah.
if your suburb's booming and you know it intimately, just keep buying in that suburb. Just make sure you don't buy when the suburb's at the tail end. Just for those people,
Absolutely.
because there comes a time where the suburb stops booming.
Yeah.
Anyway,
100%.
we'll keep moving.
Yeah, I think just overall economy-wise, macro, some of the sort of macro factors that sort of led me to this deal was I think I realized, based on my past purchase, I realized that the market was already booming, because my third deal obviously was valued much higher.
Yeah.
And then, like everyone knows, Cairns is pretty much tourism reliant, but it's no longer just relying on tourism, I feel. So there's other sort of factors that came into play to sort of go for this next purchase, which is, I think, a big block was, again, a big size. This is 800 plus square meters block size. And like I said, increasing rents, 500 to 600 is a big jump in terms of rent increase. So it's already increasing. Even on my previous property, I think the rents have increased now. So I've realized that the rents are increasing. So that also is an indication that, uh, sort of some sort of indication that it's a hot market. And I did
Yeah.
check on the vacancy rates and everything. They're pretty low for Cairns. So I think
Absolutely.
that
Yeah.
led me to sort of go for this next purchase.
So how, I'm just going to ask you, just jump back. How did you know the market was growing? What you mentioned about low vacancy rates, but what did you look at, or what did you know already owning a property there? Did you
Um,
have a look at other rentals and realize that they were a lot higher than yours? Was that one factor, as in the new rentals coming online?
Yeah, so there were a couple of factors. So rent increase in all the suburbs, majorly surrounding this suburb, were increasing.
Yep.
Vacancy rates were low. Like I said, the other factor, I think, and like I said, I've been talking to multiple people. So obviously, I was talking to my existing property manager, like the third property
Yep.
that I had, and they kept saying, like, and they're a big house, and I was talking to them, and they're like, we we just, like, the properties are selling like hotcakes these days, like, especially when they are sort of in that low figure, like 500 mark, 400, 500 mark,
Yep.
under 600. There's just no stopping. And I was talking to multiple agents. I kind of realized, because I was looking at the deals, I was talking to multiple sales agent, and you get a sense of how they're talking to you, whether they're giving you time, uh,
Yep.
all
Yep.
those different sort of minute details, and you
But
get a
I'm
sense, like,
blowing you
okay,
off, basically, as in
yeah. So
you
you,
you
you
weren't
get a
getting the
sense that
time.
you're not the only one who's lining up. So and then you instantly realize that, the market is sort of,
All right.
just
So you had to get on
absolutely
the
great.
phone and talk to people, which I know
Yeah.
is probably hard
Yep.
for you as well, being
Yeah.
a data analyst.
Yeah.
Sit
I mean, I
behind
did,
the
and
computer.
I did look at other numbers as well. Like, days on market had kind of significantly dropped
Yep.
since my third purchase. That was another thing. And yeah, I mean, the growing property prices, very honestly. My
Yep.
third
Yep.
purchase that I did, since the time to this time, like, to the fourth property, that property value had gone significantly, like, probably gone up by, I don't know, I would say 50, 60K. And
Okay.
it was not a, it was, that third property I bought was this year, actually. So it was not a big difference. Like, the same year, if the property prices have, like, your valuation has gone up by 50 or 60K, then
Yeah.
you're like,
So
the market
did
is really
your
booming.
existing property did what, 10% growth in
Yeah.
what, 6 months?
Yeah.
Was it mid this year, I'm guessing, or
It
earlier?
was actually start of this year.
Yeah. Well,
So in
so
one
you
year, it
bought
got 10%.
yeah, so you bought your third property in early 2024, and then this one you purchased just in the last few months, didn't you?
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
okay. So you saw that your existing one's grown by 60 grand. You're talking to agents, they're not calling you back, or they're saying you're having to
Yeah.
compete with these other buyers. So you know that the market's heating up, and you're watching sale prices go up, rents go up. So it's a good telltale sign. And
Yeah.
also obviously having a property in there already, you know the lay of the land.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
good on you.
I think those.
Sorry, you go.
No, you go.
Oh, I was going to ask you about the big block because you mentioned it a few times,
Yeah.
and you've done my development course and worked through that. Does this property have development potential? Is my first question, and then my second question is, if it doesn't have development potential, what's the advantage with a big block? Why did you go for a
Uh,
bigger block, or why is that good?
I think it does. It does have development potential. I mean, it's a fairly big block, very honestly. So the idea is to sort of at some point start considering development on these deals, and that's
Yep.
primarily the reason why I always consider a big block, because the idea is to sort of leverage or use those big block sizes, big
Yep.
land sizes. Uh, and generally, I have this rule of thumb to always go for big blocks to
Yep.
have the development potential, and obviously your properties grow as well. Like like I do believe the house itself doesn't grow, the land value grows,
Yeah, absolutely.
and so bigger the land size, bigger the growth.
So is that more appealing to a renter as well? Like who is your rental demographic? Is it a young family in this area? I'm assuming it would
Yeah.
be.
So this particular suburb is generally not pretty young families.
Oh, it's not?
These
Okay.
are yeah. It's. I mean, actually, the
But
renters maybe yes, but the landlords are not that young. The renters definitely are young families. But again, what I always consider, so there's no one black and white rule to big block sizes, right? But I always consider that my
yeah,
big block should not be big enough that a family would not be able to manage it as well, for
yeah,
renters
yeah, yeah,
particularly.
absolutely.
Uh, so, like, I remember I had a deal for an acreage property, uh, and it was really good, really good deal. But I did realize that it might be very difficult to rent uh, till the
Yeah.
time I get
Unless
developed it.
unless you do the lawn maintenance, which can be quite
Exactly,
costly.
which was very costly.
Yeah.
So that's why I let go of that deal. Um, but yeah, I kind of have that sweet spot when it comes to the
Yeah.
land size.
Yeah. So your big block, you said it was 800 square meters. So what's a typical block in the area? 500 or 600 square meters? Something like that?
Yeah, yeah.
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 Okay. So somebody looking at your property, if you have the same property and you do have young kids, we both have young children, as a family looking to rent, you're probably more likely going to pick the bigger block because you got more space, even though it might be more
Yeah.
mowing, but it's not enough mowing that it's over the top. You're going to more so pick the bigger block. You can fit the playground in there, let your kids run on the grass. It's better. And I can relate to that
Yeah.
as well, having young kids.
Plus, I think when it comes to big block, right? I mean, it's a usable big block.
Yeah,
There's
also a good
also
factor.
yeah, it's also a good factor for young families. Like uh,
And your neighbors aren't as
when
close as well. That also helps, especially
yeah,
with screaming
yeah,
children. You're mindful of
yeah,
how loud your kids are if you've got neighbors next door. So if your block's a
yeah.
bit bigger, they can scream a bit louder and you don't have to tell them to shush.
Absolutely. Uh, so, so yeah, those are some of the factors with this
Yeah,
deal.
nice.
Now, just coming to the structure, and I really have to firstly, I have to thank your course for this. Uh, when I did your course, I kind of realized like it was again eye opening. Like I'm like, oh, if I keep buying the way I'm doing, I'm probably not going to be able to buy much. Probably going to sort of hit the roof very soon.
Yeah.
And when I did your course, I was like, oh wow, there's a solution around it. So uh, I kind of reached out to the accountant that obviously you recommended and kind of set up the whole structure around it. And I think I used a lot of resources that you provided in the course, and kind of reached out to the team that you kind of shared in the course as well, and they helped me sort of create the structure, evaluating whole thing, evaluating my portfolio and everything, and that's where I right now I feel that I can probably go much longer. Otherwise, I would have sort of
Yeah.
hit that ceiling
Yeah.
when
So
it
just
comes
to
to buying
clarify for
properties.
everyone, much longer meaning you can buy more properties because
Yeah,
the way Ravi had previously been doing it was in personal name. And I say don't do that. There's certain instances where you can and where it is advantageous doing personal name, like tax depreciation. But there's a trade-off that you need to make. And I just did a session last night with my accountant, with the coaching clients. And we were talking about that trade-off, personal name versus, company or trust structure. And for some people, personal name is better to start with, but normally how it works is you end up having to put it in structures. Once you get to a certain point, or if you want to build a big portfolio, and for some people, you might be happy with one property or two properties, and maybe it's in your personal name. But you got to think about what happens in 20 years' time if you still own that property. If it's in your personal name, you're going to be paying a lot of tax on that money if the property's paid off. So, um, yeah, having the right team, as you've pointed out, makes a massive difference. And it's not just having the team as well. You've got to actually know what the hell you're doing, because you can have a gun accountant and a really good finance broker, but if you have no idea what your game plan is, and also if you buy a lemon property, that's also going to screw it up also, as well. But if you don't have a game plan and you don't know the right questions to ask, and this is the conversation I had last night as well, is the accountant's going to go, well, just buy it in your own name because that's the cheapest way to buy it. But he doesn't know the other side of the fence. What is your end goal? Is it to build 20 properties in the portfolio and then retire? Because if that's the goal, then you don't want to be putting in your own name. You spend the couple of thousand setting up the structures because it's going to preserve your borrowing capacity, which you've rightly pointed out there. So you're looking for your next purchase or your next couple of purchases, and also to jump into a full-blown development as well. Through doing the development course, not just buying something with a buy and hold with development potential. Now you're looking at actively getting that equity as soon as possible and manufacturing it yourself, which is the step up. It's the logical step up from doing single houses now, then looking at doing multi houses, and notching it up. But yeah, different strategy. All right, I'll hand back over to you for the wrap up, and
I mean,
do that.
I think I do feel it's just a start. I think there's and you keep learning. I personally, I don't think I've achieved much, but like I said, I think at the start, I don't think there's a better investment opportunity than real estate. It's absolutely a game changer to sort of to your financial freedom, and just use that leverage that you have, and you don't realize the power of it until you realize it, learn. Just keep learning. It's a never-ending process. I still learn. Like there's every deal has sort of taught me something, and I'm just hungry for more learning, very honestly, and that's the reason I kind of did your course as well.
Yeah, awesome. That's excellent. Thanks so much. Just on the education as well, and I heard you mention that right at the start, and I wanted to leave it till the end. Before you bought a property, you said you were looking at videos, you were consuming content, and you were doing all that stuff. And then you just took a leap of faith. And a lot of people will try and skimp, and you did that as well. You consume free information, and you've done well out of it. And to an extent, there is a bit of luck with that. There's also the skill set, and having that education. So in my view, you can either trial and error on $400,000 or $500,000 properties, and you can listen to free stuff online like this, and they'll get you to a certain point. And I don't disagree with that. People have done well. I can do a video and I can say this area is going to boom, and people can go there and they can buy a property and it'll boom. More likely than not, it may not. Sorry if I have said an area that's going to boom. We get it wrong sometimes. But normally if the data indicators look pretty good, it's almost a no-brainer. You can do it that way and you can make good money and consume free information, but you got to consider as well, and Ravi's realized this and a lot of people do, go and do a course, download the information from people that have spent, well, like myself, 15 years buying hundreds of properties, because every property purchase you learn something, and some of them will be good learnings, a lot of them will be bad. It's like, shoot, I made that mistake and it cost me 10 grand. or I made that mistake and it cost me 100 grand. So if you can avoid those mistakes, because we are all going to make mistakes, if you can avoid those mistakes or minimize that risk, the investment into an education program will like be a drop in the ocean. So you're going to make your investment back 1,000-fold. And I'm speaking from experience, having spent millions of dollars on courses and mentors over the years. And I can guarantee you, I'd probably still be working a job, or if I wasn't working a job, I definitely would not be in the position I am now. So it's only with that help. And I saw that early
Yeah.
on. As a 22-year-old, when I did my first course, I was making 60 grand a year and I dropped 30 grand on programs. And most people don't do that. And Ravi, you've invested time, energy, and also in the program as well. And
Yeah.
what you're achieving is phenomenal. I know you said you don't feel like you've achieved much, but you're already in like the top 1%. And for people looking on, if you've exceeded Ravi or not, if you're just starting, that is exceptional to have built up that property portfolio, and you are on a fairly modest income. So don't think that Ravi's on 500,000 a year accumulating these properties. You don't have to be on huge incomes. I mean, it makes it a lot easier, but it normally what happens if you're on a huge income, you end up becoming complacent on
Yeah.
the property purchases because you go, oh, I got 500,000 in the bank. I'll just get a buyer's agent and he can just do it for me. And that's what a lot of people do. But how
Yeah.
much time you work a full-time job, you got a family, you got other commitments. How much time is there in reality? And maybe this answer is going to be shocking
Yeah.
to me, but
Can I
on
can
a
I just
weekly
pinpoint?
basis. Oh, sorry. What is a time commitment? Like, what do people need to expect to commit to, going from zero, like very novice investor to actually somebody that's going to make money out of this thing?
Um, So I don't want to put a figure around it, but what I would really want to say, Adam, is you really have to like the process and you really have to believe in it first. So
Yeah.
when like I said, my penny drop moment was that of how big this property game is. And then I started like my perspective of how I was consuming the content just changed. Like how I watch the videos and what information I absorb and how I register that information.
Yeah. So what
And you
do you mean
start,
by that? Did you mean you were actually like contently listening and taking notes? Is
yeah,
that
yeah,
is that
100%.
so you weren't just like listening and it went in one
No,
ear and
no.
out the other. You were like actively doing stuff.
No, it wasn't a passive listening. It was very active listening that I'm focused. I'm listening. Okay, if Adam is pushing out a content for an hour, I'm better going to dedicate that 1 hour to his
Yeah.
content.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't just. There's no music going in the background. There's no sort of cooking, eating. There's nothing going on. It's absolutely just consuming that content. And
Yeah.
then you start identifying who's sort of BSing and who's sort of actually, and
Yeah.
that's where you start filtering like what you really want to watch. And don't get me wrong, I mean, to quote a number, I think you probably have to spend, I don't know, a couple of hours after work, which I did. I actually, I don't know, when I started, I probably spent good 5 hours, and I would just watch content after work. That's it. That's what I would
Wow.
do.
Wow.
Just no social life, no nothing,
So you hit
just
it hard.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just do that. I mean,
Yeah.
and now I still do. I really still do. Not probably not
Yeah.
for 5 6 hours. I still sort of after work. I still sort of watch different content, try and absorb that information, create my own analysis, run numbers, and I still spend the time. I give it a couple
Yeah.
of hours after work, and just to be sort of be updated about it.
Yeah. Good on you. So that's like the tip of the iceberg. People like Ravi's got 4 properties. He's probably making 500,000 a year, and it's easy for him. He spent an hour a week, but you've just said, there's been a lot of work leading up to that. And
Yeah,
that is true for, everyone I know that's successful. It doesn't happen overnight. Yours pretty much has, but it doesn't happen
yeah,
overnight. And there's hard work involved. It's just that people at the barbecues or, your friends, family, your circle, they don't see the hard work. They don't see
yeah,
you just got off a 10-hour shift or whatever it is. Mine used to be like 12, 13 hours a day. And similar to you, I'd be 2, 3, 4 hours working at the end of
yeah.
every day. 100 hours a week for 10 years. Like that was a sacrifice. You don't have to make that huge sacrifice.
Yeah.
And also when you start, and this is also the value proposition with spending money on education. You can learn it yourself and you can consume all this content. Actually, I was going to say half of it's BS, but more like 95% of it is BS. And it's not specific knowledge. And you end up just listening for hours and you're just like, cool, what did I learn out of 5 hours? Nothing.
Yeah.
Or I picked up one thing, and then you might feel like you're spinning your tires. And you get to a point where you just go, screw it. I'm just going to drop 10,000 on this course. And I've been in the same position. Like, screw it. I'm sick of listening to all this BS. Let's just pick somebody who knows what they're talking about. And I'm just going to fast track that, because it's not just the investment. It's also the time saving as well. If you can save a year mucking around, that could be a year of, let's just say 10% growth on a $500,000 property. That could be 50 grand. You could be costing yourself 50 grand on a modest suburb, or if it's a gun suburb, it could be 100 grand. That could be what you're earning in a year. Like, crazy.
100%. I think one tip probably that I would probably like to highlight is, once you start consuming content, right, you need to sort of start filtering out as well, like what you want to watch, what you want to consume, and you need to start absorbing content from people who's actually done things rather than just using social media to kind of market whatever they're trying to sell.
Yeah, some 25-year-old kid who claims to have bought 25 properties, but he runs a buyer's agency that makes 500K a year. It's not to hang crap on those people. I think they're exceptional. But you do have to listen to somebody who knows what they're doing. Otherwise, who knows? You might go to the moon, or you might go the opposite way.
No, 100%. And I actually started doing that. I started watching people who actually make sense, and who's done something themselves. And that's why I probably subscribe to your course as well, because I kind of, that vibe, right? You kind of, I don't know, I had that sense that, okay, that's probably a course or person I should sort of be, associated with. Just you become sort of, it's an organic thing. You just start feeling more confident and trust. That you build that trust on people. So I would just say, just don't consume everything on social media. That's it.
Yes. Yep. All good. Thanks so much, Ravi, for your time. I hope everyone listening got a lot of value from this. And if you got any questions for Ravi or myself, just feel free to drop them in the comments. Ravi will happily answer them all. Won't you? Yeah? No problem. Thanks so much.
100%.
Really appreciate it.
My name is Adam Panisi. I got a couple $100 million of my own property projects, and I've been doing property for the last 15 years. If you like this video, give me a like and subscribe to the channel.